I'm here today to tell my story. I've been studying and being a part of a number of summits on becoming a keynote speaker. And I've been on a number of podcasts. I've done some speaking events, but I want to bring it to a higher level because I believe that my message and what I can share can help others and save lives. And so on this special day, it's the eve of the anniversary of the day that my daughter um, Erin transitioned, and she took her life at 15 years old. And it has been a number of years. And I think I've been feeling actually the response from some people that are not necessarily in the know of what this might feel like. It's like, letting go and working through your grief and all these different things. But when this time comes up, our body remembers, our cells remember. I'm so grateful for a counselor that was helping me at the time and prepared me that, it is in our body. There's like we all know about muscle memory for athletes. Well, we have cellular memory for so many different aspects of our life, and grief is one of them. And I birthed this child. There are cells that came down from my mother that are in me and that were exchanged between both of my daughters into my body. We are a part of one another. And so this past week, I had the honor of being part of a summit with a somatic a counselor and coach and healer who teaches confidence and speaking skills. And she has actually been the head of the TED Talks in the Washington, D.C. area. And the approach was so organic, and what she'd shared in her concept of the stages of visioning, being vulnerable. And she really expressed that we need more women speakers, actually. And we are imperfect in our presentation. If we want to be and feel in control and have every word perfect, it comes off often as stilted and not real. And we want to touch the hearts of our audience and have connection. And right now in our world, connection is a premium. It's so important, and we become more and more disconnected. And I think there's even a fear in the air because people have so many different points of view as far as what's going on in the world today. So I'm coming to you today with a very vulnerable story that I want to tell and a vulnerable heart. Some years I feel things greater than other years. And here in Florida, it's been raining for like 2 weeks. I mean, like thunderstorm, huge rainstorms. We are really flooded out. So I think that adds an aspect, and there's a melancholy. And I have a number of friends who have lost a child, and we've all just sort of been talking about this a little bit with a shared grief. But as I work through this step process with the somatic healer and counselor, it led me to a greater core message. And this story popped up, and it was so clear to me remembering this. And I wanted to share it with you today. I always share something and make a talk on this day. And tomorrow I'm going to be in Winter Park. Where this all happened, where I lived. And there's actually a bench to my daughter. And I've done a number of YouTubes there, and I call it Stories from the Bench. But I have a busy day tomorrow, and it's 2.5 hours away from where I live now. And so I wanted to make this tonight. And she challenged us to, how will you use the story that you came up with today? And just last week, I had a 2-day summit with an incredible trainer on speaking, and she trains um, uh, celebrities, and she was in charge of the TED Talks in New York City and Manhattan. And the things she shared were so valuable. And they were both talking about a through line message that really is the core of all the talks that you do, and you can vary it, but there's a through line of what you bring to other people. And I've been living with this phrase called soar above the fray that came to me about 5 years ago, because when you're in it and in your pain or in whatever circumstances you're in, it's hard to see all the players and to have a broader picture. We often talk about the 360-degree view. And in a meditation, it came to me when I was doing some work with some healers, that of being an eagle. And those words came to me, to soar above the fray, because when we can be detached from the circumstances and maybe view things in a different way, or be our shadow self, if you understand what I'm talking about with that. You're looking as an objective party at your role, at all the players' roles in these circumstances. And in my case, I talk a lot about parental alienation, and I believe truly that that's the root cause of um, of Erin taking her life. But in all honesty, Erin was a conflicted person, a conflicted child from a toddler, a baby, but she was brilliant. She was interesting. She had um, creative insight, and I couldn't wait to see what she would do as an adult. But going through a high conflict divorce with so much strife was not what this person needed, and not my other daughter either. Created a lot of factors that affected all of us. And my daughter didn't need that. She couldn't handle that. And she finally took her life in her father's home while he was home. And I got that call. I mean, he was right there. So it's hard to always know the circumstances. You're relying on what somebody shares. And when you don't have a close relationship to somebody, or communication, honest communication, you're not sure of all the details of what might have happened. But I know it brought me to a completely different spiritual level. And being around spiritual community, there are a lot of people that are mediums and that feel energy. And I sometimes feel her energy, but other people will see a child walking beside me. People that I met in a networking group randomly, they go, there's somebody walking next to you. And I know that she's eternally happy. She was not happy as a human on this earth. And I believe that she passed me a baton to speak and to talk about suicide, to talk about um, the conflict of our children and what divorce, the collateral damage of divorce. I've spoke and told my story at the courthouse in Orlando to help other high conflict couples see that they're playing Russian roulette with their children's lives. And I know I made a difference, because the mentors came out that were the mediators, and the mentors that were um, creating that workshop for the couples, which we had gone through. And I have another video about that circumstance, shared with me that there were breakthroughs with some actually fathers that just couldn't grasp the significance of their behavior, and lack of communication, and what that could the impact that could have on their children. Do you love your children more than you hate the other person, or that this anger brings? And I mean, different people have different tolerances of anger. So if you're the type of person, I'm sorry, I get off on tangents, that has an anger issue, then it's going to express in a much more difficult way. But the memory that came up for me doing these exercises a couple of days ago was at my daughter's funeral. And I wear a lot of black. You probably see in a lot of my videos that I wear a lot of black. And my daughter didn't like me wearing black. And so I wore pink to her funeral. And that's why I'm wearing pink today. And you can't really see this too much. And my neck has gotten heavier, thicker, as I got older. But I made this necklace at a jewelry workshop. There's a toggle there, and this is all pink with pearls and with silver. And trying to do creative things really does help with your grief and expression and having a memento for those moments of your life. And so, what I want to talk about today, and what came clear to me, and actually, this was really the quote in my story. So, I was in a compilation book, and we had to express a situation that happened in our life, but then how we overcame that and turned it around into a different possibility. And so my quote was, we're not the pain that we live into, we're the possibilities that we can have in our life afterwards. And that's not a complete quote. I don't know why I should always remember it. We're the possibilities that we get to live into. And I have a lot of friends that have lost a child in unique ways, and a number are very stuck. For me, speaking out and telling my story, remembering my daughter, or telling some things that might help other people is healing for me. Being in the open into the light is healing for me. And I think that every parent wants their child to be remembered. That's one common thread that I see. We don't want them to be forgotten. And so this is a moment that came up to me, and it, it was I was you can't predict when you're going and doing some writing exercises with prompts. And let's see, what was the prompt that she gave? In 10 seconds, to speak from the deepest part of you, what would you say? And I had to use our pain and circumstances to free us to feel alive. And you can see the sign up there. It says, "Today is a gift." And when I got the news that my daughter passed away, um, I don't like this automatic thing now. You put your hand up and then it automatically raises your hand. Sorry, it's just like, okay, this is a little out of control with AI. Um, is that I still have life and how precious that is, and that I have no right to waste it. Do I waste it? Like today, I felt a little bit like a sloth. My energy has been low these last few days. And on the day of her anniversary, actually, it's a special day for me. That first year, I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was going to jump out of my skin. What do I do on this day? And I'm really estranged from my family, and they've sort of shut off. Nobody really talks about my daughter. They don't understand what this is like and what I'm going through. And there was a lot of collateral damage, and I can own my side of the street, that of the things that I did in that emotional turmoil. Um, and I'm a changed person. I've done a lot of work. I've spent a lot of money on courses and counseling and dug deep. And everyone isn't privy to do that. But for me, I want to evolve and use these things to be in a better place, and to learn other ways of dealing with trauma, because there was a lot of trauma around the circumstances. And I did a video on that. I'm at peace with closure of my daughter, but the trauma that comes up every year of the abuse and the outrageous things that people in my life did and said and asked me to do. It's just when I share with people, their jaw drops. And so I am really proud of myself, the courage, the warrior, the survivor and thriver that I have become. And I used to look for validation from my family, but they're just not that kind of people. And I learned how to validate myself. And I know all the work that I did in those dark days to be able to get to the other side. You have to walk through the darkness, the pain, and dig deep. There's always more. We're never done. And but being on the other side, looking at things differently is just phenomenal. And that's the space that I'm in. So I'm with so many healers, so many other people that have transitioned and transformed their lives. So we speak a different language. and we accept a lot of things. So I want to bring this memory to you because it was so clear, and I just felt like I was living it again when I was doing this work to be working on my keynote speaker skills. Because it's like, okay, what story do I bring up? What comes to mind? And it's interesting what things pop into your mind. And recently, one of my daughter Erin's friends, they were like 4 years old in preschool when they were friends, and then they lost some contacts, but they were in the same school. And of course, when Erin passed away at 15, um, that was that made an impact on all of her peers' lives. And so now her friend is married with children, but her brother, so that's how long I've known them. Um, Her brother developed a brain tumor and cancer. And um, watching that journey and going to the funeral in the same church with so many of the same people because they stayed in touch. All the um, students that were and the families that were in those grades have still been friends. I moved away, and to see all those people, it was so deja vu. And so I remember um, standing up, you have to plan the mass and the songs. And when you're working with somebody else who will not communicate, who didn't communicate as the other parent, it was his way or the highway, and he knows everything. And, that type of personality. And, but he and my other daughter, they didn't want to get up and speak. And I thought, this is my only opportunity. I will not be at our high school or college graduation. There will not be a wedding. There will not be another moment. And as difficult as it was to get in front of everyone in the church, all the teachers that went to a Catholic school, the priests, the peers, the families, friends, and people that had come far and wide for this honoring of my daughter. She was not an easy child. It was very difficult. It was my background's early childhood education, and this child just absolutely challenged every aspect, and it challenges a marriage very, very hard. Anyway, I remember that I was going to do a reading, and I was going to be able to stand up there and speak and honor my daughter. I will never have a moment like that again. And that's one thing that is one of my superpowers, I feel, as I look back and I see how I've walked through life, and that is having courage and having integrity and doing things even when it's uncomfortable. And so I remember reading the prayer of Saint Teresa. If you don't know what that is, I should have maybe had it prepared, but that prayer helped me so much. So look it up. It's really special. And she had it on the walls of her orphanage. And I wore a pink dress, and I looked out at everyone, and I felt so grateful that so many people were there. And I also had made a very special handout because I knew there would be so many teens there, and this would really affect their life. And I have to say, fast forward to today, because that was over 20 years ago, suicide is so common. And mothers have reached out to me with their children as young as 12. One woman shared on a Facebook page, about her only child. She was like head of the soccer team. She played instruments. She was a top student. And it's like, what happened? What was it? And that's the hard thing about this kind of death. You want to be in their head. Like, what happened? But I do know that my daughter was conflicted, and that the creation of distance between the parents, my former husband refused to talk, have any communication, and we were court ordered to a high conflict divorce situation under armed guards, and still this person would not change or take any tool away from all of the teachers that were there helping us to mediate for our children's sake. And And that's a big important message to me because my goal is saving the children. That honors my daughter's life if there are other children that can be saved from what I have to share. But I just remember being at the pulpit, speaking out, speaking my heart, and being able to do that. And that's the story that came up. There are so many stories, but using my pain in a positive way to share with others and to not miss that moment, because what I know is that I don't want to have regrets. I can live with myself without regrets. And I remember that my counselor I was working with, we actually thought that she had turned a corner. I don't, she was court ordered for counseling. My former husband blocked that. And finally, at the end, she went to 4 sessions with an incredible person. However, he had also told her just to not um, share her feelings. You didn't have to share your feelings. You don't have to say anything. So there's a lot behind that. Our feelings, they say feelings don't kill, but really emotions and feelings have a big impact on our health, and our emotional wellness creates um, physical conditions in our body. And that's a lot of my work. It's my business is called Wellness Matters. You matter. So many people today don't think they matter. And right now in our country, people are being suppressed more and more and more and hiding because of fear. And I want you to know that you matter. Every single person matters. And I remember seeing on a talk show, actually, and they had a very special, well renowned medium on there. And then from the audience, that he would get messages. And this couple stood up, and their daughter only lived for a day. And he had a message from their daughter. And he said, even coming forth for one day, you've lived on this earth, they've made an impact. They impacted your life, they impacted many other lives. You don't even know all the lives that have been impacted. And that made a huge difference to me. So my daughter Erin made a big impact, so many lives, and I know that. And I feel a responsibility too, because were in such grief. Even though I had a graphic artist make up a special thing to give out to all the students because I knew that there was going to be an impact. However, looking back, I wish I had done more to reach out to some of the peers, and I wondered how all these 15-year-olds and 16-year-old young teens that affected their life. It was somebody they knew. And I was shocked and amazed at the amount of people that came. All these kids came, and she had just started the high school. So it was October. So what was that? Just a couple of months being in school. And it was just unbelievable and heartwarming. And I never used to know what to do when somebody died. I withdrew, really. I didn't know what to say. And I want to say that just showing up, just giving somebody space to grieve, to show that you are there and you understand and you're there for them, that's the greatest gift that you could ever give to someone. So thank you so much for listening. And this is my story this year on the anniversary of Erin's passing. And I know that she is at peace and is working really hard from the other side to make a difference. And she passed me a baton, and I'm working hard to do that work. And you have to heal from a lot of grief before you can even speak like this. It took years. And so I hope this message meant something to you, but go out and do something kind and pay attention to our youth. They've been through a lot these last years with COVID, with separation from school, from all the school shootings and fear and anxiety. And they might not even want their parents to know how anxious they are because their parents are worried. And kids often want to protect their parents. And now living in this climate, they've really had a much harder road to travel than I did as a child. So Peace out. And say some prayers for my daughter, Erin. And please say some prayers for my daughter. I'm not going to mention her name, but my older daughter, too, that we all can have peace and come together in unity and love. Thank you.